Welcome to Grit, the Real Estate Growth Mindset podcast, hosted by Brian Charlesworth, founder of Sisu. Sisu provides growth automation software for real estate. You'll hear stories from real estate thought and technology leaders, team owners, and brokers on how they grew their business in a rapidly changing industry. You'll learn how to transform your brokerage and teams into a high-performing and analytics-driven business so you have a new, durable, competitive advantage against disruption in your market. So let's get right into it.
Welcome back to the Grit Podcast. I'm Brian Charlesworth. I'm the founder of Sisu, and I'm the host of the show. And today we are here with Doug from 8Z. Doug has Travis with him as well. Travis is his son. With everybody working from home in today's world, we're seeing more and more of that. So anyway, grateful to have you on the show today, Doug, and really looking forward to learning more about what you guys have done at 8Z. It sounds like you've played pretty much every role in that business other than really being an agent. Maybe you could tell us just give us a history on your business. Maybe start with how big are you guys today? I think you have about 15 offices and I don't know how many agents. And so you guys have grown a phenomenal business, but tell us about where you guys are at today, and then maybe we could get some of your history.
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. I'm glad to be here. So Doug Gieck with 8Z Real Estate out of Colorado. We service the Front Range. And for those of you not familiar with Colorado, that's basically Fort Collins to Colorado Springs, the I-25 corridor is another way to talk about it. But yeah, we're an independent. We've been around for 10 years. In those 10 years, we've expanded to 150 agents. Last year, we finished with 2,665 transactions and $1.27 billion in volume. So we've grown slow and steady over the years, and we're pretty proud of our business. I still like to think of us as a small and nimble startup, but I think other people would argue that opinion out there. So that's 8Z today. 150 agents, all doing pretty solid production. We averaged about 22.08 to be exact transactions per agent in 2019. And a little over 10 million in volume, 10.7. So really proud of that and looking to make that better as we go along here.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know when you got into this business, you guys got in. I bought a home inspection company in 2008. I bought the home inspection company Housemaster back then, and as the franchisor. And I remember the struggles. We were trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to replace this revenue with some other source of revenue? So you guys were jumping into the real estate business the exact same time. Horrible time to get into real estate. How did you guys go from nothing to, how did you even survive? Because most people were going out of business while you were coming into business.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. I was on the ground level, right? And hired in April of 2008, and in I think late May, I was looking at the prospect of getting laid off because we didn't know exactly what this housing crash was gonna bring. Luckily, I was retained purely on chance. Another employee decided to switch industries, so I got kept on, and we really just buckled down and focused on what we were really good at. And at the time, which still rings true today, but it was lead conversion. We had a really successful website in Colorado. It was called cohomefinder.com. If you go there now, it just takes you to our current website. But the best way to explain it is it was the Zillow of Colorado before Zillow existed. And my CEO came from that. He was a founder at Zip during the .com days, and Zip was one of the first companies out there to put listings on the internet. So first IDX sites, and obviously that's commonplace now. But it's really buckling down and doing a lot more with less, right? So less agents, less money, but more production, and it really became just being really good at getting information to the consumer. And at the time, that became foreclosure information and short sale information and talking them through all that stuff. And we were able to do a lot of transactions and be nimble throughout that time until the market obviously turned. It was pretty short-lived in Colorado. It wasn't as devastating here as it was in other places. I think we saw 3 years of negative appreciation, and overall as a state, of course, there were pockets that got hit a little bit harder. But overall as a state, we lost maybe 8% home appreciation over 3 years. But we didn't know what that was going to look like, and it killed a lot of businesses. But we were able to just buckle down, focus on what we were good at, and came out of it when the rebound came out of it a lot stronger and took off. So that's what that looked like then. Why my CEO decided to start a brokerage in the biggest economic downturn in history is an interesting question. But it worked, and it made us battle tested and scrappy to face times like we're facing now.
Okay, so let's jump into now. So are you selling homes today? Does real estate, are homes still selling?
Homes are still selling, believe it or not. And of course, there's been a downtick. So we finished, thanks to Sisu, I know these numbers like the back of my hand. We finished March at 214 transactions. We're projected to do 187 in April. And, we count those under contracts and closings on a daily basis, over communicating that to our entire brokerage now, which is a lot more people to communicate with than it was back in 2008. But yeah, houses are closing, and we've been watching these statistics from our 3 main MLSs come on daily, and listings are still getting listed, albeit at a lower rate. And what's really surprising is how many of them are going under contract. It's almost equal. So we're in a very tight inventory market, and that remains true even with the pandemic going on. It's still happening. What's interesting is you got to pivot a little bit to your normal day-to-day on how you get across the finish line. So that's, been my primary focus for the last 3 weeks, and something that everybody can do. These aren't, things that are not doable no matter where you're at.
So you guys, obviously thinking outside of the box, you guys are constantly innovating, figuring out how you can be the leader. For someone who might be struggling today, what are those things? Let's jump into some details behind what are those things that someone should be doing today versus what they were doing a month ago.
Yeah. I mean, I would start with turn off your TV and turn off the news and stick to the facts. Look at what's really happening in your market based on data. Steve Harney with Keeping Current Matters, really bright guy that is, he might be 100% at predicting what's happening in the market. So he's a good one to follow. But that was some sound advice that he gave. So first of all, don't get hung up in the doom and gloom. They're trying to sell more newspapers, make you watch their TV more, their station more. So stay away from that. And then over communicate and get really close to your clients. The reality is smart people probably will pause right now because we don't know what's going to happen. But traditionally, we like to look back at other scenarios in history that this, gets close to. The best analogy is 9/11. That's the best one we found, which everything shut down and everything was quiet for weeks. And if you look at it historically, it was just a blip, and it was a very sharp V correction, right? So that's what we're anticipating, but you better be ready for the rebound, because what I think is going to happen is we're going to have to do 6 or 9 months worth of real estate transactions in about 3 months. It's going to be crazy. And if you're not ready for that and you don't stay in front of your people, you're going to lose. You're not going to be ready. So, make sure you can apply for the government loans that are happening. Get out there, make sure you can keep the business running, but stay really close to your people. Work on the business while you're not working in the business. Prospect harder, make more phone calls, be empathetic, be humane, because people are going through some crazy stuff right now. And if you show some value and get close to them, you're going to be the first phone call they make. when we come out of this, and we will come out of it.
Yes, we always do, right? So when you say over communicate, I think what most people think of is over communicate with my clients, right? Reach out, talk to my SOI, let them know that I care, let them see if I can help them in any way. Now's the time of contribution. But what else can you do when you say over communicate? I think, if you look at your team or your brokerage, what's the communication there right now? What do you need to be doing at the business level to keep your agents from doing exactly the stuff you just talked about, living in front of the TV?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brian. So it's happening at that level too. We are communicating 2, 3, 4 times a day through all different channels, whether it be sending a video to every single agent and support staff that's at 8Z. We've made a dedicated COVID web page on our website that is updating them on how to do a virtual open house, how to do a virtual tour, how get your Zoom account set up, how do you do a real estate review with a client virtually. Just basically trying to arm them with the tools and stay in front of them. And furthermore, every day we have an end-of-day email that sends out numbers for the day. So how many we put under contract, how many sold on that day, personal stories. We're hunting down from our entire staff stories that they're sharing. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but it's staying with them. Our leadership team met monthly. We're meeting weekly now, and then sometimes even more than that with special one-offs, because this has been so fluid, right? Things are changing, at least they were for a while, changing on a sometimes hourly basis. Are we essential? Are we not essential? All these things. So, it's simple, but you can't communicate enough right now. Like if you're hesitant, if you type out an email and you're hesitant to hit the send button, hit the send button. If you're hesitant to make a phone call, don't hesitate. Like there's nothing that can be out there right now that can't be addressed and that shouldn't be addressed. Like if you have a good thought, whether it goes deeper or whatever, stay close to your inner circle that is at work, and be in really close, constant communication.
Okay. So over communicate across the board. If you're an agent, over communicate with your clients, with your SOI. If you're running a business, over communicate with your team, your brokerage, whatever, your business, right? When I say team.
Yeah, that sums it up. It seems really simple, but I'll tell you, it's working for us. We're getting times when there's a sticky transaction and things that maybe you wouldn't have made that phone call to your team leader or whoever that might be. We're getting everybody involved and figure out how we can get that thing across the finish line. Are we switching mortgage companies? Are we, that title company has shut down operations. Can we get them to a different title company? All these things are happening because we're staying in contact with each other, even though we're all sitting at home.
Great. So I normally don't talk about Sisu on this, but I know you've brought it up a few times already. So you've thrown out that you closed 214 in March, 187 is what you're on pace to close in April, and will close unless you hurry and put a cash transaction together, right? So how do you stay on top of those numbers? How do you hold your team accountable? And especially in this remote environment we're in today. I mean, what's the accountability that you're doing with your team, or how do you keep them engaged and motivated?
Yeah, for me, Sisu is only as good as the data that goes into it. So first and foremost, it was starting with our transaction coordinators. So part of 8Z, each office has a transaction coordinator that's working remotely now. So I've been really close to that team, making sure that Sisu is their first priority, that anytime a status changes on any transaction or anytime they get updated on a new transaction, that it goes into Sisu immediately. So that's key one, to make sure you have good data. And then you can, we're fairly new to Sisu. We turned it on as a brokerage in January. So we're just getting started. We've always measured numbers, but now we're measuring and seeing stuff like seeing our business holistically and then being able to dive into the weeds on stuff like never before. So, excuse me, I got to button Travis's Spider-Man outfit real quick, everybody. Give me a sec.
No problem. Go ahead.
So really, it's just keeping those things in line, but knowing what Sisu can show you that maybe you weren't focused on ever before, right?
So maybe share with us, you're talking about jumping in the weeds, being able to see things like never before. Maybe you could give an example of what's some big aha that you guys have had.
Right. So we have a sister company called Zavvy that deals with iBuyers, and one metric that they've really been trying to measure really hard is listings. And what I found out is a lot of brokerages don't really know how many listings are in the pipeline. Well, with Sisu, because of when we can manipulate when we want to enter data, I know exactly how many listings we have and how many are under contract and how many are set to close. So that's one example. Under contract, like being able to look out the front mirror and see exactly what's going to happen in the business. We had estimated metrics on this before. Now we have real. Like you just said, Brian, we're probably going to close 187 in April, and that's because I know exactly what's happening thanks to Sisu. These are things that I didn't have before we partnered with you guys. And getting in, and you guys can go deep. I mean, unfortunately, we're big, so we move slower than I think a lot of your clients do. But if you're smart and you hook Sisu to your CRM, we use Boomtown, and Sisu hooks right to Boomtown. I know Sisu has the ability to hook to pretty much any CRM to where you can feed real-time actions into the system. That's phase 2 for me, but I know there's a lot of Sisu users out there that do it now, and they can know how many dials are happening on a daily basis. These are the things that are going to dictate what your people are doing, and then the beauty of it is you can gamify it and make challenges and really get those people moving in the right direction and make it fun.
Have
right?
you guys done that?
We just started. I created about 8 challenges for 2 specific teams yesterday, and they're already off and running, and they're fired up about it. And the challenges were around handwritten notes, phone conversations. We put Zoom meetings in as one of the challenges.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, So we're adapting to what's happening in the market, and social media posts. Like, we have all these challenges going on now that were something that we never focused on before, but because of Sisu, I can do this in an hour, what would have taken me probably at best weeks and spreadsheets to figure out that would have had no visibility. Now I can just hit the challenge, you go hit the challenges. Any agent can see where they're at any time. So it's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. So you guys have how many offices now?
15 offices.
Okay.
Throughout the Front Range. Yeah. So we're spread out.
If you've been enjoying Grit, please help us continue to grow the channel by leaving a 5-star review and sharing it with a friend. Now back to Grit.
So running 15 offices, I mean, that's a lot of data. Being able to do that, how did you do that before? I can't even imagine doing that with spreadsheets. How do you manage 15 offices and know what's going on and keep people accountable?
Yeah. Prior to, let's see, let me rewind to about April of 2019. I'd always had an in-house engineer. So could write code, was a technologist, all these things. And the team, I was always at least one, but I had it as big as 4 throughout the history of AZ. So we spent lots of time and money and hours tying things to Google and building that infrastructure ourselves, which was pretty volatile based on different operators coming in and different developers, all that stuff, and it worked, but it didn't work great. And when we wanted to make changes, that would take months. And we've measured since the beginning of time, since the beginning of AZ,
yeah,
beginning of our time, and that's Sisu didn't exist in 2008, right?
Right.
But now you have you have these SaaS companies like Sisu that you can start to focus again on what you're best at, so you don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and time and effort on making all that work, right? And most people don't. But for a pretty nominal fee, I mean, our most valuable thing is time. And I imagine your podcast is full of a lot of broker owners, Brian. I imagine that's the pretty popular, or at least the majority of your audience. Their most valuable asset is time, and trying to figure all this out, and the long nights, putting all these pieces together of how do you make this spreadsheet, and then how do I make it pretty so I can display it. You'll kill yourself trying to figure that out. Trust me, I've been there. Sisu can do it for you, and just sign up. It's that easy.
So you guys went from having up to 4 developers to now you don't need that, right? I mean, you were actually a dev shop.
We were very much on the edge of technology and real estate, right? We have been since our inception, built our own website years ago, so on and so forth. But we made the conscious choice to be a brokerage with tech involved, and we were a dev shop. There's no doubt about it. That was a big element, and thanks to you guys and a few other vendors, I've been able to take $100,000 a year employees and change that into we're saving a lot of money. And I didn't fire them; they moved on, and I had a choice to make: do I hire somebody else or look for off-the-shelf solutions? And thank goodness for the inner circles of real estate people that I know that pointed me towards you guys, because you guys saved me a lot of time and effort and pain and heartache.
Well, good. That's why we're here. I got to feel that at a really low level before I started Sisu, which is how Sisu got formed, as I jumped in and helped my wife with her business. So you are the vice president of production. Is that correct?
That's right.
What does that actually mean? What do
That's
you
a great
actually
question. Nobody really knows. So I kind of no, I'm just joking. I focus specifically on operations, and with a production mindset. When I talk about how we're operating and efficiencies, like I wake up, my first thought is, how do I make our realtors more productive today by taking whatever I can off their plates, so they can focus on prospecting and transacting. So I look at the operations of the entire brokerage and decide, is Sisu the right tool that's going to help us with coaching reports and measurables and accountability? Yes. And there's a million different things. Like I look at our marketing team. Our agents are not responsible for marketing their own properties. We take care of all that stuff for them. We have a baseline of social media. Of course, we let our agents that want to do a little extra, they certainly can, but I want them focused on what they're good at, how Sisu takes a lot of stuff off our plate. I'm looking to take as much off of agents' plates as I can so that they can maximize their sales time. The people-to-people, belly-to-belly, going out and actually transacting. That's the only way you can push agents to be super efficient and close a lot of real estate, because do this on your own, it's tough, right? I mean, you got to focus on marketing, you got to focus on lead gen, you got to focus on measuring your business. And the reality is most people don't. But how can you make that better? And you have to start looking at these things to get better. So that's what I do. I'm constantly looking at our operations and figuring out how they get better.
Which is, you guys obviously do a great job of providing value to your agents, which is how you have so many agents. You guys have obviously done an amazing job with your productivity. If you're averaging 22 plus per agent, those are great numbers. What about on the recruiting side? What are you guys doing there? How do you recruit agents?
Yeah, it's a great question, Brian. And recruiting is, I would see it as something that I'm not really proud of, because we don't have a really structured recruiting system. We recruit really organically, but it's because of our infrastructure and how our business is set up. we don't charge our agents, fees or sell them products. Our investment is completely aligned with them selling real estate. So we don't necessarily grow by agent count. We grow by agent production first, right? But because of our production and because of everything we've done, organically, a lot of people come to us and say, wow, this looks like you guys provide a lot of value. I'd like to hear more. And, it might seem silly because we're at 150, which is a pretty big number for an independent. But that's been largely organic. It's interesting. It feels wrong to get super focused on recruiting during a tough time, right? Like, I'm not looking, I hope everybody makes it through this. I'm not looking to snake agents from other brokerages because they might be on hard times. But I think the reality is some people are not set up to weather this storm, and it's going to happen. So, we're doing a lot more to get our message out there, help people understand what an AZ is and how we operate. And naturally, we're going to get more agents coming. But recruiting for us has been largely organic. It's not something that is a major driver for us.
So it's really focus on the agent productivity, drive the value, and they'll come to you.
Yeah, I mean, we drink a lot of Jim Collins Kool-Aid. My CEO happened to be on his research team when he wrote Good to Great. And Jim Collins was actually his last transaction, which is a fun story to tell. But his last transaction as an agent.
Wow, that's cool.
That's pretty nuts. I fell into a lucky seat, but we're always trying to find not 10 agents to get on the bus, but that one right agent to get on the bus that we know we can drive to massive production, right? That's our focus.
So your CEO, your founder, was the founder of Zip, and he also helped write Good to Great.
He was on the founding team at Zip. He wasn't the founder.
Okay.
But he was on I don't recall his actual title when he was at Zip, but he was on the founding team. He was a research assistant. He was finishing up his MBA at CU when Jim Collins wrote Good to Great. He's got a pretty impressive rap sheet.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's fun. Great to surround yourself with people like that. Is there any other advice that you would like to give to our audience? Just stuff they should be doing really in this moment in time. You just mentioned a lot of people aren't set up to get through this. And so what can people be doing today other than applying for, PPP funding?
Right. I mean, do apply because that's cheap money and a lot of forgiveness in that. And why not, right? Do what you have to do to keep your business afloat. But I think it goes back to do what you do best. That's what we're focusing on. You might have to pivot a little bit. Like I might have to get on a Zoom now instead of talking face to face. But do what is your option right? What is your one thing that you're amazing at? Keep doing it and do it often and do it more. Because if you do that, the chances are when this thing passes, you're going to be set up in a great position to weather the storm, to make it and have a thriving business. And those that don't make it, there's going to be buyers and sellers out there that got to go somewhere because now their agent doesn't exist, right? Be set up, be ready to take that on. Like set yourself up to where you're prepared to crush it when we can all see each other in public once again, right? And start there. And be really tactful about where you're spending money. Like audit your entire system. Where are you spending money? What can be cut? Where can you get lean? There's a lot of places to get lean. Sisu's not one of them. Trust me. You need to know what's going on with your metrics and what's going on with your business. If you're not measuring your business, you're not really a business. That's be my number one thing to tell people. Like, make sure you know what your numbers are, how you generate business, and how you can focus on keeping that going, and then double down on it. Everybody, if your agents are treating this as a vacation, it's not going to be good when the rebound comes. But if your agents are doubling down on prospecting and getting in front of their people, it's going to be a fun ride, and a wild one. Get your seatbelt ready.
Okay, thank you for that. Just a couple other questions in wrapping up here, Doug. What's your favorite book or your favorite source of learning? For some people, they don't read books, but for some people, they love books. So what's been your best, something you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah. So probably my favorite book that I most recently read would be Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. That's a really, really great book for anybody that finds themselves in a leadership position, making sure we're getting into the arena and not sitting on the sidelines. So that's a good one. My three kind of constants, big shocker coming, but Good to Great and Built to Last by Jim Collins have been really impactful books. And then Simon Sinek's Start With Why are probably my three go-tos. And then one that I really enjoyed, Rocket Fuel. I think it's really important to have the idea guy and then the execution guy. Unfortunately, I'm the execution guy, so I always get a little miffed at that. Someday maybe I might be the idea guy. But I think that's a great place to start, and constantly do better. 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Lencioni. That's a great book. But just trying to find holes and get different perspectives is really what I like to read. I like to look at problems. I'm a fixer, right? I like to see where the holes are at in operations or anything and see how to fix it. So that's where I usually go to when it comes to educating myself.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of great books you shared, so thank you. What's your favorite place to go when you can leave your house? When this is all done, where are you going?
It's funny. I isolate even more. Huge outdoorsman, and I got a place that's really dear to my heart. I could go there now if I wanted to, if I really wanted to. If I didn't have kids during a podcast, I could go. I could go there right now. But the mountains, there's a really special place. If you ever find yourself in Colorado, called Trappers Lake. It's in White River National Forest. It's the Flat Tops Wilderness. You can isolate. You won't have cell phone service. I was fortunate enough, working at 8Z. If you're here for 6 years, we get a sabbatical. So 2 months paid off to go do whatever you want. And I went on a solo backpacking trip, spent 3 weeks by myself in the wilderness, which was pretty cool. And that's what I like to do. And hopefully this thing gets over soon because I got a fishing trip planned to Alaska in September. So I'm hoping that doesn't get canceled.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Doug, thank you so much for your time. If people want to get a hold of you, if we have questions, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, you can definitely go to our website, 8z.com, really easy, 2-letter domain. Go to Our Professionals. You can find me there. You can hit me up on my email. It's fine too. Facebook is great. I participate in a few real estate communities on Facebook, but just Doug Gieck, Gieck. My email is Doug Gieck plus the company, douggeek@8z.com. So if you guys have any questions, need help, or just need to talk to somebody, these are interesting times, right? I love seeing other faces too, so don't hesitate to reach out.
Yep, and if you guys need more information on Doug, you can go to the 8Z, the website, or you can go to the Sisu podcast website. We'll have Doug's information there as well. Thanks for joining, everybody. Doug, thank you so much for joining us today, and great getting to know you better.
My pleasure, Brian. Thanks for everything you guys do at Sisu. You make real estate easier.
Yeah, thank you. We love it. We love doing it. So thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Thank you for joining us on our podcast. If you have an interest in a free 7-day trial of Sisu, go to sisu.co, sisu.co. Make sure that you use the coupon code GRIT, that's GRIT, to waive all your setup fees and receive a 10% discount on your subscription. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast and want to subscribe, search GRIT, the Real Estate Growth Mindset, on iTunes, Spotify, or Podbean. And with that, we'll catch you next time. Take care.